Hey, my name is Casey Heinsch. I'm an associate level marriage and family therapist at Belgian Psychological Services. I'm creating some free webinars to help families during this time. Today's topic is going to be focused on connection and bonding. And I want to put a disclaimer in that these webinars do not serve as a replacement for any types of psychotherapy services that you might be receiving either from myself or another provider in the office. If you have any further questions, please take that up with your provider or myself. I'll be happy to answer any of them. These topics are meant as a starting place, definitely not a catch-all. They're also not good for all families. A lot of my topics are focused on families struggling with challenges related to giftedness, learning disabilities, and executive deficits. So again, today's topic is about connection and bonding in families and what that looks like and how to engage families, especially when their kids don't want to participate. So a lot of the activities I'm looking at are more mindful in nature, I think is the best way to really think about it. Most of them are free and require minimal setup. What's really important is there's not a whole lot of competition. A lot of my families complain that game night is not fun night because there's competition involved. So I'm trying to minimize that. Board games are great and they have a lot of competition. The other complaint I hear from families often is families with multiple ages. So if you have a 7-year-old and a 15-year-old, sometimes games can be really difficult because the 7-year-old isn't up to the 15-year-old level, and the 15-year-old wants to roll their eyes and not come down to the 7-year-old level. So these are games that are family friendly for all ages and pretty much easy to participate in. And so before I kind of give you the list of games, I want to kind of give you an understanding of ways to get everyone to participate, especially when everyone might not want to. So in choosing a game for your family to connect or bond over, choose a game where people can come in and out of the game really easily. Meaning that if the game starts, they don't have to see through it till the end. Some kids, again, if we're talking about deficits, it's really hard for them to sit there for a long time and then they start to lose it, and that's maybe where you get an explosion or a tantrum. Or 15-year-olds friends start texting them on their phone and all of a sudden they want nothing to do with you and they start rolling their eyes and start making sassy comments to their siblings. So finding a way that they can kind of come in and out of this bonding time per se. And not to say that some families don't have more structured rules around we all hang out together from this time to this time with no electronics. That's great too. I'm just talking about more free play and ways to just keep the family engaged during the day, during the weekend, as you are all in pretty close proximity to each other. So finding a game that people can flow in and out, and if someone doesn't want to play, being mindful that maybe they don't have to play. And when you kind of say, okay, fine, we're going to play, you don't have to play, oftentimes teenagers especially, or those kind of more resistant or hesitant kiddos feel like they have a little more space, or we could even use the word control to engage or not engage. So one really good example is playing 20 questions. I'm thinking of an animal, a person, place, or thing, and people just start asking questions. So anyone, you can be really anywhere in the vicinity. Maybe someone is sitting in the kitchen, someone's sitting in the living room. What I have found in my experiences is even if, say, Samantha doesn't want to play and Billy and mom are playing, eventually Samantha will chime in and start asking questions too. Because they're still curious, they're still kids, whether they're kids or teenagers. This is how their brain really gets engaged, is let's utilize FOMO to our advantage. If the whole family is doing something and it looks like everyone's having fun, the other person that didn't want to engage probably will most likely engage, even if it's only for a little bit. That's really where you're planting the seed, so that in the future, when it hasn't been this big battle for everyone to decide what to play or not to play, how long to play, I don't want to play, they're more likely to want to participate. So looking at that is I encourage a lot of my parents to say, I want to play this game. I'm going to play this game. Who's going to play with me? So even if that means, both of the parents come in and they're the only ones playing, most of the time, and maybe not all of the time, the kids will start trickling in wanting to play. And really, that's the idea. If one parent and one kid want to play, but the other parent and the other kid doesn't want to play, I would bet money on slowly one or all of them will start to participate. Again, we're not trying to talk about sitting down and participating for a whole hour, 5 minutes here, 15 minutes here, just a few questions. Those things can be really helpful in creating bonding. So that's one thing. Obviously there's always gonna be like, well, we played that so many times, or Ruby gets to always play that, or he's better at that than I am, and I don't want to play, and I'm stupid, right? These kind of negative self-talk, competitive type nature things. So the best way to also combat some of that is at some point you have the family all sit down and write down games that they want to play. Again, staying away from those too competitive ones unless you're really in it to win it. Putting them in a hat and drawing it out. Yes, you're still going to have kids that struggle with tantrum, but this is going to alleviate the fairness principle. I'll throw all of the ideas in the hat and pick it out. So that way, if it's a structured, standardized time everyone has to play, it makes it a little more even. Or if it's a less structured, not everybody has to play, it gets picked out of the hat, and say Joe, who really doesn't want to play, doesn't have to. Joe can sit out. Maybe Joe is then required to color or draw or do something in his journal or a skateboard or whatever it may be. So really looking at that. So first of all, if it's a non-structured, parents putting it back on themselves, I want to play, this is what I'm going to do, who wants to come with me? And then secondly, if it's a more structured and we really want to get everyone involved, putting all of the ideas in a hat. Obviously, ideas have to be parent approved. You may want to give them a list ahead of time. That's a really good way to get them involved. And so having said that, some different, again, mindful type activities that are available. You can go online and download free PDFs of would you rather type questions, which are asking very simple, basic questions. Would you rather do this or would you rather do this? And they have them for all ages. There's hundreds out there. It can be a lot of fun. The other game, obviously, that I mentioned earlier is 20 questions. For kids that are a bit younger, I Spy is such a really great game. All kids love I Spy. For older kids, you can play describing the object. So they think of an object and they start practicing their language to describe the object. So rather than just 20 questions, the person is saying the object is round, the object is orange, the object has black lines, it's rough, rigid a little bit, it bounces. So then people start asking questions. Obviously, that's a basketball. And so that can be really fun. Other fun games that a lot of people don't necessarily play anymore, and this can be really good as far as spelling and trying to get kids to engage in their sight words, is Hangman. That's a really good way to get kids academically involved in a game, especially those that really hate reading and writing. Hangman makes that a bit easier. One that's a little unfair to kids, but is nice for parents, is the quiet game. Just creating some silence and quiet, but being flexible with them being silly when they choose not to be quiet. Jenga is really great. Now, if you don't have it, that's something that's going to cost, who knows when Amazon's going to get something to you. But what's great about Jenga is you can actually start writing questions on the Jenga blocks, or you can buy Totika that already has questions. But that's a way to just really get to know your kids. Questions are a great way to get to know your kids. All of these activities are a great way to not only connect and bond, but to get to know your kids. Another one a lot of families enjoy playing is Pictionary and charades. Again, I know a lot of these things are, what I hear is outdated and teenagers don't want to play them. They say that, and then we bring them in my office or my family's practice doing it, and they come back to me and said that they really have a lot of fun with it. And these games really help and draw on the senses, help just bring that stimuli back and create a lot of bonding type activities. And again, another key to this is allowing for the flexibility and allowing for the time limit. This will really help create more engagement and take away the stigma of family game night and how it's not fun. Not to say that cards and board games, even we can be really good for families, but just trying to take away that competitive nature. A lot of my parents talk about how hard it is to get people to want to do something. Walks are really good. That's not a game, obviously. And if your kids don't want to go on a walk and they're old enough to be left home, then you say, hey, I as the parent, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go on a walk. And parent, leave the house. You do that for enough days, eventually they'll start joining you. Kids and teenagers are more likely to want to engage if they feel like they have an option to say no. Again, as long as that's not impeding on some type of family value where there's a structure that they are required to do something that's very different. This is talking about more of that flexibility and that bonding time that they might not have to engage in during a certain period of the day. Those are some ideas that I have. I also have a list of other ideas that I've received from other therapists to keep kids engaged. I have a lot of ideas around mindful activities and just trying to reduce the extra wiggles, extra stimuli that they might have being cooped up in the house. So if you have any questions about that, please let me know. You can email me at c.heinsch, which is H-E-I-N as in Nancy, S as in Sam, C-H at Belgian, which is B-E-L-J-A-N, psych.com. If you have any further questions over the phone, you can call our office, speak with Charity, and she can get you in contact with me. If anyone has any suggestions about webinar topics or things that are very concerning to them, please feel free to email them to me, and if I can answer them via webinar, I'll be happy to do that. And I hope that you guys are all enjoying your time as a family together. Thank you.